I have 2 days to turn this business around.
Really just feel like the business is like running me.
I don't have all the answers. We are trying to figure this out. Why are these people leaving?
I guess I just didn't really know how to address like situations the best way.
I've already talked to your guys that you fired.
It was a hostile environment. Like, my boss would scream, yell, cuss, break things.
Cameron needs to change the way that he deals with people. You'll always be an army of one. Always. I know how he's treated Command Center. I know how he's treated other franchisees locally.
It's just one of them things where it's like, if every person is saying the same thing, like, you got to address it.
No, I can do it. We're all like almost like scared to say something.
Just getting started.
Be that way.
Is this a scam? Is this like the carrot on the end of the stick?
Maybe afraid's the wrong word, but that's kind of how it looked.
And we're gonna have to change a lot, and I'm not gonna be able to tell you what to do all the time in your job. I'm gonna need you to be able to figure it out and bring solutions to me. We just cap 135 locations for Augusta and never grow again. It's just too much headache for my brain. I'm Mike Andes, founder of Augusta Lawn Care that has over 135 locations around North America. Cameron wants to throw in the towel on his Augusta Lawn Care location. He's overbooked, he's turning down work, and has turned off all leads that are coming in from Command Center. His whole team either recently quit or got fired, and no one wants to work for him. So without telling him, I booked a flight to Boise, Idaho to figure out why. It's the weekend. I really want to swing by the shop and just see what shape it's in before Cameron knows that I'm in town. Really nice shop space. This is incredible. This is an awesome spot, and if I remember correctly, he's only paying like $1,200 or $1,400 per month for this massive two-shop bay and this great frontage in terms of commercial space. Now, what's really kind of funny, behind this is a hen house. Okay, so when I show up to do a turnaround, we're gonna check your equipment, and it's unlocked. Oh, pretty clean, honestly. Ow! And I appreciate it. Keep it open for me. I can spend the weekend in here nice and clean. I know in my local market, if we leave trucks and equipment unlocked, they're gonna be gone the next day. Oh, these are, oh man, I like these sprayers. I'll do them a favor. Oh wait, someone drilled out, look at that. Someone drilled this lock out.
I did that because they sent us in the key didn't work for the lock. So they're like, just send it back, and I'm like, just drill it out. I don't know if to steal a gas can. I guess they can really have it if they want it.
All right, so someone's tried to steal from them before because they drilled that lock out. Or maybe he doesn't want it locked. But okay, so we got some fuel. We got a nice little battery. We were able to get that truck because it was unlocked. And I need a big battery, and I need a hydraulic system. So is there a reason why they have locks on these? It obviously looks like Cameron's mental state is affecting his business, and a lot of the little things are beginning to slip through the cracks. I wonder what else I'm going to find when I surprise Cameron tomorrow morning at his team meeting by showing up. All right, so we've already driven by a couple times. Looks like there's someone without a uniform helping him today. I don't know, he's lost a lot of people, so it could be just him and this other guy. What's up, dude?
How you
Good
doing?
to see you, man.
Good, I wasn't expecting to drop by. I was like, who is this guy? Because you were always pulling in here.
Oh, really? Do like a turnaround?
Yeah, I know when he saw him coming, I was like, oh sweet, I was expecting him to show up. But yeah, it was definitely a nice surprise, and I think it'll be helpful for me to get like kind of like recharge my batteries. His first day. So.
Cool, good stuff, man. So is it just the two of you today then?
Yeah, so kind of I was telling you and I kind of explained to him, it was me and 4 other guys. We were just having major problems with 3 out of the 4 guys.
Yeah.
So last Thursday, I had to just, no, 2 Thursdays ago, I had to just let everyone go.
I've only been here for 60 seconds, and I can already tell that Cameron is struggling mentally. First, some of his equipment was unlocked on the weekend, but now he's telling me that he lost 4 employees in the past couple weeks, and he doesn't even know how many budget hours or how much work is on the schedule.
Went from like being like, everything's going great, to like, you got enough work's coming in, enough employees, to just like, back to square one. Normally we make around like 20,000, so we're rating 30 is like projects.
Right.
So definitely.
Most of it's still been projects.
Yeah, that's like the money maker there. So yeah, definitely don't want to just turn that off. And we do have like probably 4 projects that need to be done.
Yeah.
They just happened right before all that crap happened, so I had to tell them, stay put.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, what do I want? I don't know. I just want to be able to feel like I'm in control. I really do feel like I'm probably gonna get emotional because it's really hard. Really just feel like the business is like running me. It's been super hard in that aspect, so just some, I don't know, just some guidance to kind of get things back into shape so I don't feel like I'm losing everything I worked so hard for.
Yeah. When it comes to being a leader and a great manager of your team as it begins to grow, I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and that's where Cameron's struggling. But strong leadership is going to require him taking ownership and control of everything that's happening in the company.
Why are these people leaving, right? And like, I go from the perspective of, I only see a certain amount of data. I see coaching calls and I see command center, and I can only see base my thoughts based on how an owner treats those two individuals. And like canceling last minute on coaching calls is like a telltale sign to me that someone's not respecting other people, right?
I've only done like coaching calls with Lee. I've never had a conversation with Chuck before ever. I don't know, I guess I've just prejudged him for the type of person he is. And like, I don't think I would really mesh with that personality super well. So I'm just gonna stick with Lee, who's more my type of guy, you know?
And there's nothing against you. I know you get busy, you're in the business, you feel it's controlling you, and then you're doing things.
I was like, oh, I don't have time.
Right, totally, and I get it. But that same mentality is what is being used on employees, I can guarantee it. Even when I look at Command Center, I can see all recording calls. I can tell you're under pressure the way you're talking to them. I can tell that the way that you then react or lash out at someone is based upon how the business is putting pressure on you. And so then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're feeling under pressure, feel like the business is controlling you, so then you lash out, you do things to employees, and they're like, forget this. Or they're gonna do things behind your back and actually try to tear the business down. All right, so the game plan is to actually try to get a hold of Cameron's wife, as well as maybe even some of his past employees, and get their perspective, because he realizes that the people side of things is his problem, but he really doesn't know why. You know, he says he needs help, he understands he needs help, but then he can't recognize the fact that there's people wanting to give him help, and he's not taking it. So, we'll see what's up.
I know some will disagree with me, but I definitely do feel very alone in this business. I haven't met them. There's like a new owner who just purchased the Boise location a few months ago. And the only reason why though is I'm not really looking for like landscaping advice. I'm more looking for like business advice. And I know like a lot of new franchisees and people who join Augusta aren't the most like business savvy people. There are some, but I know like so I kind of pick and choose like who I take advice from, if that makes sense. Kind of like the blind leading the blind. I know that sounds bad, but that's kind of how I feel sometimes.
I got a hold of Cameron's wife, Courtney, and wanted to meet up with her and get some insight as to what she believes is taking place and why she thinks Cameron is struggling in the business.
Well, I feel like this is why he's having a hard time. We make quite a bit of money from this, right? It feels like none of that money is his, it's all businesses. We only pay ourselves $5,000 a month.
Right.
So he's like, realistically, like I could be making more money doing something else and putting in like a fourth of the amount of effort.
How did I deal with it? Really, I ultimately kind of wasn't really sure what I was gonna do. Maybe I'll just sell the business. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should just do it all myself.
And I feel like for a while there, like he was doing really good.
Did they have like a group chat or anything like that? So you connect to the day?
Yeah, they did. And you would send messages, and then only two of the guys would respond. He didn't want to take advice from people. I feel like when things started going downhill, he became like really in his head.
It's definitely been like an up and down roller coaster of highs and lows all the time, which sometimes makes me question like whether my own judgment, whether I'm the problem, whether I'm doing something wrong.
What do I do now? What do I do now? And then just kind of, it all just broke down at once. And so when everything fell apart, I just started knowing, well, you need somebody to help you, right?
I can tell that Cameron is starting to settle because he's literally hiring someone that he previously turned down in the interview process. If this new hire only lasts a few weeks before leaving, this can become a compounding problem where you hire someone, you get more jobs on the schedule, and then when they leave, you even have more stress and more jobs that you can't get to.
When you have lots of jobs coming in who need to get done, and then you take someone who's like brand new, it like slows everything down. So it's nice when you have someone who can just keep up with the pace from day one, and you don't have to like teach them, like I said, everything. Honestly, like what is my game plan? I'm not really sure yet. Like a lot of like the business side of things I feel like are kind of like, at least I feel this way. is expected for you just to know it already. We had 4 employees, we had to let go 3 of them 2 weeks ago, and one of them was his last day. So I literally went from 4 guys to no guys within a matter of like 1 day. So definitely very like emotionally draining, and just like felt like, man, all this hard work I've been working up to, or all this hard work I've been putting into his business kind of just like all came down, crashing down on me in a matter of 24 hours. So I laugh about it now, but also, yeah, definitely is very just disheartening, you know, in the moment, so.
Now, in Cameron's defense, I had 2 people that were supposed to meet with me that were previous employees, and they opted to either just text me and give me a very long spiel, we can show you, or just not show up. All right, so I've talked to a couple of his previous employees that he let go via text message. This one's willing to call me.
Hello.
Hey John, how's it going? It's Mike, Andy's here.
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I just wanted your kind of take on things, and I've talked to a couple of the other guys, and just kind of get your feedback on it.
Well, and there's tons I could say, but if I could just sum it up really quickly, it's just one of them things where it's like if every person is saying the same thing, like you got to address it.
There's got to be something on my end that I'm not seeing that could be better.
You have to take them serious instead of just talking them down and being like, well, you know, that's just how we do things around here, or that's just how it is.
I just don't want to hire anyone who doesn't have
Experience.
like legit experience. Like, oh yeah, I mowed grass growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, no, I want you to be like, I worked for this landscape company for 3 or 4 years.
There's literally a 17-year-old, and nothing against him at all. But it's like, I'm literally babysitting this guy. I'm teaching him. I'm guiding him. He's constantly wandering off to go start step 2, and we haven't finished step 1 yet. And it's like, man, well, every day you have me work with this guy, I feel like I'm training him. But him and I are getting paid the same when I've been working in this industry since this guy was 10 years old. And it's like, it kind of makes me angry when him and I are viewed as the same value. Like, man, I'm a hustler, I'm a go-getter. And it's like, I was just told, like, you know, Monday you kill it, you get paid this. Tuesday this happens, you get paid that.
Although I'm listening to John, I'm also taking all this information with a grain of salt, because he's a previous employee, and most previous employees don't have a lot of positive things to say about their previous employer. And so I'm not trying to extrapolate or listen to a whole bunch of negativity about Cameron. I'm simply trying to get a different perspective, because I do believe I need multiple angles in order to try to find out what is the root problem for Cameron's business.
I was making $27 an hour in my last job, but it was a hostile environment. Like, my boss would scream, yell, cuss, break things, apologize for it, do it again. Like, I literally turned down better jobs for like the school district, taking care of all the grounds and all the schools, and only because of that whole P for P. Like you could make 20 to 30 an hour, and it's like, yeah, well, I never did.
Right. What do they usually were making on P4P, like 23, 24?
We had guys making $35 like an hour.
Is this a scam? Is this like the carrot on the end of the stick? Like, what's going on here? And I never screwed off. I never slacked. I'm so quick. I feel like he just kind of tried to quickly dismiss what I said, and he didn't. I don't feel like he heard me out.
At this point, I have a pretty good understanding of some of the issues that are happening inside the business. I'm gonna sit down and have a face-to-face conversation with Cameron and Courtney and figure things out. There has to be some sort of leadership. And if you're not that person, they're gonna find it internally, and then they're gonna create a subculture within the company.
I could tell they're all starting to, it was like toxic. It was starting to spread. You know, one bad one can ruin it all very quickly. And that's what happened. Because when I was talking to them individually, I could sense that.
It's like he had the conclusion of our conversation in mind before we started. So it's like, no matter what I said, he was just gonna steer it back there.
I'm just gonna scrap this and start over afresh, and with the hopes of kind of rebuilding the team culture.
Rather than being like, okay, I'm here, you're there, can we meet in the middle, or like somewhere close, can we compromise in any way? And he was not trying to find any sort of compromise.
Compromise, there you go.
Because I didn't want people coming to work feeling like they're gonna be mistreated or bullied, or feel like they can just kind of get away with a lack of professionalism and just really just dignity for, you know, their work and respect and things like that.
I've already talked to your guys that you fired. They think you're making money hand over fist.
I want to know what they think. I really want to know. He called all.
I talked to them, I text them, and I'm gonna meet with some of them.
You should.
I am.
I want to know what they have to say.
This is the thing. You should know when they leave why.
Yeah.
And they should feel comfortable enough to tell you. And unfortunately, you've created the environment where they wouldn't tell you why they left until you fired them. Like right now, if you called them like, hey, I want to know why, and they're gonna tell me, and they already have.
I honestly felt like they wanted to be fired, and that's why the one guy.
They
was,
laughed. When I fired him, he literally.
He was like,
What
LOL.
do you mean call me? Somebody other, I fire or text. He was like, LOL. He's like, basically, he's like.
I was like, I think that they damaged things their last day on purpose because they wanted to be fired.
I don't know if you saw this. One of the guys, he actually, like, it's not a huge problem. Like I said, I expect things like this to happen, but the tailgate was down, I guess, and he ran into the back of the dump trailer. But to this day, no one's really fessed up to who it was. If things like this happen, just speak up. Like, I'm not gonna be mad if you're just honest, but if I have to like play investigator and try to figure out who did what because you're too afraid to say something, then that's when I get upset and I feel like, okay, now I can't trust my guys. Now I feel like I have to watch them like an eagle because if I don't, you know, something's gonna go wrong and I'll never know who did it.
Right, but they would only do that and once you've said, hey, you're fired. What it should have been is weeks prior, they said, hey, we have a problem with this. Why aren't you showing up to the shop? Like, there should be that open dialogue, and then it gives you the license to be like, hey, here's all the estimates I did yesterday. Here's what I'm trying to do in the back end. Here's all the stuff that I'm doing. And if someone complains about pay, it's like, hey, here's the 20 things I did yesterday. If you want to take some of these off my plate, I am happy to pay you more money.
I actually did do that with one guy.
Yeah, I told him.
I was like,
Right.
cool. I literally YouTubed. How do you deal with this employee when he wants for pay? And they talk about doing market research and figuring out like what the going rate is, and I did all these different things, and I basically
He
came up with.
proposed it all to
I basically
him.
came up with a plan.
My first day was on Thursday. Saturday, he called me. And then he's like, we're going to start training for that. And then he never did.
Basically, I talk about like, here's what your position makes. 100 square miles from here. This is what companies are paying. We're on the higher end. And we came up with a plan of, okay,
Got more
like
money,
you
here's
want more
your
money.
more tasks.
Cool. You can come in on Fridays and do this and this and this and this and make more money. Cool. And then the next day he like quit. So yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
He even called me one day and told me that he wanted me to be like the manager.
But I also found out afterwards he was a 5-time felon. So
But for example, why didn't he feel comfortable enough right after you said that to say what he was thinking? Because I know what he was thinking.
I literally got my paycheck, had a big talk with him that night, and the next day I just couldn't do it.
He was thinking enough thoughts for him to quit the next day.
right, that's what I was
But
saying.
why
Like,
didn't-
obviously it was he didn't just decide
Yeah.
like he wouldn't come in for 30 minutes that day and quit. Yeah.
But why didn't he tell you? That's the question that we need to be asking ourselves. Because that's the only thing we can fix is ourselves. We can't fix him. We can't fix that he's a felon. We can't fix why he quit the next day. We can only fix ourselves. And ask ourselves, why did he not say anything to us?
Everybody's always like, communicate, and then you do, but then somebody doesn't try to hear you out, or they don't try to work with you, or at least explain why this is going on. Hey, I would love to compromise with you, but I can't.
Why, like, if you're gonna actually take ownership of the business, right, and you wanna have control over it, means you have to take ownership of everything that happens in it. If that's gonna be the case, when they leave, it's not a matter of they were late. Like, the question, why are they late? Why do they not care enough about my business and their job to show up here on time?
Like, we're at the top of the industry standards here.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you're not though. Like, you're not.
Why do they not care enough to show up 15 minutes early, get their truck ready so they can make more money on P4P? That's my problem. I didn't train them enough on why it's important to show up on time, why it's important to get your truck ready and so, have a lunch pack so you don't have to stop throughout the day. I didn't do my job correctly. Because we can, for days, blame it on everything else, right? But we can't control that. We can't control them, we can't control what they do, we can only control ourselves.
I feel like that's true, and I also feel like if people watch somebody be late over and over and over again and not really getting fired or a consequence that's easy to see and witness, then they all think like, oh, I could be late, or I could call it sick tomorrow and it'd be fine.
We all did the same thing, but it was like on accident, I would tell them, oh yeah, you tried to call me, I didn't answer, and they're like, me too. I was like, oh man, we're all just kind of done with this, aren't we?
Everything's my fault. My fault. I'm
Is
not
it
doing anything right.
No, but see, right now, the reason you feel stressed and you feel out of control you feel like the business is controlling you, you feel like the employees have the power, the customers have the power, everyone else has the power, and you gotta suck that all back in, and if you do that, it's all your fault. It's extremely liberating, because you control everything that happens then. It was you who hired the quote-unquote bad employees. It was you who didn't have the dash cam. It was you who didn't have the insurance. It's you who got the shop in the wrong spot. Like, all these things that start to line up, it's all your fault. But the cool thing is, you can change it. If it's the employee's fault, what are you gonna do? Cuss them out, be mad at them. That's all you got.
That makes sense. Okay, that makes more sense, yeah.
Right?
Act like I have it all together in front of my team. Because sometimes, you know, even when I don't have the answer, like, should I just be real with them and be like, I don't know, but we'll figure this out? Or should I just big team make it, you know? Like, I feel like this is just like my belief is like, I feel like I'm gonna be stuck in this non-stop like cycle forever and ever and ever and ever. That's why like last week I was like, let's just sell it. Let's just move on to something else. Let's just put this much effort into something else that doesn't require so many more, like as many moving parts. Because I feel like sometimes they expect you to have all the answers and to know everything. And like, you're the boss, you should like know all the answers, and you know, but sometimes I'm like, I really don't know. Like, I'm just figuring this out as I go.
Right, but what is that? What is that? Right, because everything requires you, at the beginning stage, you're gonna sell, and you're gonna crush it. And we've said this 1,000 times. What gets you from 0 to 500,000 is gonna be your ability to sell, and you can do that. You've proven it. You made 60,000 a month almost, right? That's not the issue. What you're gonna keep hitting up against is is you to 75? Let's go, right? So you've proven that you can do that. What you're gonna hit up against, regardless if you're in lawn care, or you're in fencing, or if you're in insurance, or whatever you do, it'll be when you start having to manage people. And what your ideology of what you want is, hey, I don't want to be working in the business, I want to be working on it. That's going to require a team, 100%. And so if your goal is to ever work on the business and be the leader, it will require you changing the way you work with other people. So it's not a matter of like always thinking that the next level is easier or better. It's not that way, it's different. And what you gotta define is like, what size of business meets my definition of success? Because always chasing the next one or what's lower than you, you'll always be discontent. You'll get a few good guys, you'll be better at leading people like, okay, all right, now I'm gonna go for 10 or 15 employees and get a general manager so I can be out of the field. Okay, well, if that doesn't align with what you want ultimately from the business, you're gonna build it, that GM won't wanna work for you anymore, they'll bail, and then 5 of the employees leave with them and go start another business. Now what are you doing? There's always gonna be that risk. That's what business is, right? How you build a moat around that, you start to pay people more, you raise prices significantly, and that's why I said like, get to a point where you start just raising prices, You don't need to accept all the estimates. You let the OTP go and have a 30% close ratio, but you're at $10, $15 more per cut. Now the guys are making more on P for P.
So you said there's always risk, so what's the risk with having just a general manager or working GM and field employees? Like, what's the risk with that?
The GM leaves.
Okay, so what happens when he leaves?
Then you've got to step back in, because you haven't built a business that can sustain without one GM.
Without what?
Without just the one GM.
That's what I'm saying, like, so shouldn't there be like a different...
Yeah, grow it, build it, make it bigger. But if that doesn't align with your level of what success means to you, you're not gonna do it, because it could drive you insane if you had 12 employees. And you have to answer to a GM on everything, because you do not have a lot of control when you have a GM. Everything needs to go through them. So it's like, what is the definition of success for you? It's always going to seem more appealing to grow, always. So far, we've touched on Cameron's ability to be a better leader, also his management style, as well as looking at what a general manager role might look like in the business. Also, we've really tried to clarify what are the goals of the business and why does it even exist. But there's one more thing I have to address.
Hey, I'm not gonna go ask my poor uncle for financial advice. I don't wanna ask a landscaper for business advice. I wanna ask a successful business owner. So it's hard for me to like...
But see, that notion will prevent you from ever working with someone below you. Because what that basically means is you will never listen to an employee. Because they're never gonna typically be financially better off than you. They're typically gonna have less experience than you. And so the thought process that I'm not gonna listen to someone that doesn't have greater experience or skill in any area than me basically sets you up to never listen to an employee. That's what it sets you up for. So if you get a second in command, you will put them in this position and then basically strip them of all power because you're not going to listen to anything they say.
I do think that you were mentioning that too, because you were like, yeah, I want someone who will be a GM, or kind of like my version of a GM, but I also don't want them to do this, or have any control over the money because I don't trust them. And I was
But
like,
more importantly, let's say they say something that you feel like they have no responsibility or power or experience whatsoever. That still should be thought through. If you are the leader in the top of the pack, if you're gonna say that I'm not going to listen to or learn from anyone below me, you are essentially handicapping every employee that wants to move up the organization. And any great employee is like, forget this. He's not gonna listen to me about equipment. He's not gonna listen to me about the route. He's not gonna listen to me about how we should be paid. And there's no listening happening. And then at the same token, you're saying, hey guys, be open with me, honest with me, tell me what's going on. What are you thinking? And then they create these subcultures, but then you're like, please talk to me. They're never gonna talk to you because you're never vulnerable enough with them to share what you're thinking.
It's either quit or just continue forward. There's not really a whole lot of, that was my two options. And ultimately I have a family, and I can't let a setback like this cause me to just throw all my hard work away.
But why not reach out to the people who literally know? And that's the two franchisees that are going through it.
Every state's different.
You got two franchisees within 10 minutes of you.
Oh, that's true.
Like you thinking that, I can't learn from them because they're not business people, they're landscapers, when in reality, they literally got the same call as you. They're going through the exact same thing. They are far more qualified to give you that advice than someone that has a $5 million business doing plumbing or roofing or whatever. They know exactly what you're going through. Like if I only listened to people that made more money than me, I would never listen to anybody. I don't know a single person personally that makes more money than me. So how would I ever get better? Am I only gonna listen to people on TV or on YouTube? No, that's not the solution. The solution is the people in the weeds of my business know far better than me how to run it. They just want a human being that they can pass that information along to, and then they know takes action on those and values their opinion. People that are billionaires giving their opinion on how to do things, and like, oh, that's a good idea. It will never work in a small business because they're managing 5 levels of executive between them and frontline employees. So it doesn't matter how they walk into the shop. For you gotta be here. You gotta be able to talk to the guys about their weekend and empathize with what happened with their wife on the weekend. Like you have to do that, right?
I feel like something also that you're struggling with
Lee just texted me. I guess I'm supposed to call me today.
Who did?
Lee. Because I messaged him like, hey, you need 5-10 minutes?
Tell them, actively in a coaching call.
Typically when I look at a small business that's struggling, there's only a few things that need tweaked or changed to completely change the profitability and the team culture of the company. I believe Cameron has some real potential. There's definitely some things he must change in order for that to happen.
But ultimately too, it's like, I think overall it's a communication thing, right? Communication with the employees, communication with other franchisees, communications with Command Center, communications with your coaches. Like those are all really important. And I don't care if someone's above, below, side, peer, whatever. It's like, you gotta have those levels of communication. And I think you can improve, you can change. And that's the change I was talking about in our email. It's not the systems, like I know you have that down. I know you can sell, I know you can, you got that, right? You use Zuper probably best than anyone else, and it's a crippled program, right? But like, you know how to use it, right? But it's not that. The change is inside, and you're looking outside, what needs to change out here, it's like 100% on you. And that's like, oh, that's so harsh. No, like, that's awesome, because you can do something about it. If it was everything outside of you, well, then we got a problem.
Now you might be wondering what's happened to Cameron since the time of this recording. In the past several weeks, since we were there in person, it seems like Cameron is making positive strides towards becoming a better leader and getting a great team underneath him. Now, if you would like me to come to your small business in person and within 24 hours do a turnaround, go in the description, there's links down below, or go to mikeandy.com/turnaround and apply today.